So guys, I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about tokenomics. Now, tokenomics is just a term for the economics of a cryptocurrency. This is one part of the valuation process when determining what the chances are of a project doing well or doing badly. It is not the complete equation, but it is definitely part of the equation. So I do hope you enjoy this video. I'll try and get it done really, really quickly. It shouldn't take too long. But before I do, of course, none of this is financial advice. Do your own due diligence, all of that sort of stuff. And also go and join the community if you would like to. The link for that will be in the description box below. It is very, very new still, but with videos like these and more, we're trying to have a process where we can have a set process that we all follow, and hopefully all share our own thoughts about different things within the context of those processes. And so we can basically utilize more people to get more results faster, hopefully. So that's the idea. I hope that you enjoy. I hope that that sounds good to you, and let's just get into it. So the important elements that I've put in here is, tokenomics between two different projects could be totally different, and yet they could both still work. And so what I'm trying to say is there isn't a set in stone concrete method that works best. And so what I've tried to do here with these elements is I've tried to put the most foundational and underlying principles into these elements rather than focus on really technical features of the tokenomics themselves. Just in plain English there, that was a little bit of a mouthful. I've tried to just include the most foundational principles underneath and that go through all of the tokenomics. Again, that description wasn't much better, but hey, I've started it now, so there we go. So as I think I've briefly mentioned this, but good tokenomics don't automatically mean a good cryptocurrency. They're only part of the equation. Now, the first thing is market capitalization, or market cap. Now, this is calculated by basically the total supply times by the current market price. So the price that we see on, CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko or something like that. And essentially the market capitalization is a view of the overall value of that particular project. Now, generally speaking, the lower the market cap, the more easily manipulated a project is. This is why micro caps are obviously a lot more risky than something like Bitcoin. And obviously more risk tends to pair up with more reward as well. And so as I've just kind of touched on there, therefore we can begin to gauge the risk of a token via the market cap. We can kind of segment what we're doing out from the micro caps, small caps, mid caps, and then the large caps as well. And so supply and demand is the next thing. Now, this is just the standard supply and demand curve. As supply goes up, demand goes down, and vice versa. And so I've broken it down into three different things here, two of which I'll be discussing in this video, and the other one I'll talk about in another video. But the first thing is demand, which is basically a need for the solution being provided. The second thing is what I'm not going to be talking about in this video, which is the quality of the solution. In other words, how good is the utility of this particular token, like how, measuring how good it is. That will be in the second part to this, which is all about, in this, I guess, two-part, maybe a three-part series about determining the value of a particular project. And then the third thing is unlock schedule, which is the supply. And this is all, I'm also going to talk about the burning schedule as well. And so the first thing is the best solution which is the supply in the world, without an equal or greater need, which is the demand, is going to be worthless. Because if you could be the best person in the world at making tiny little replicas of sand, but there's not going to be a huge demand for that. And so, no one will care. So the demand can be estimated by several means, and here are some, and not all of these need to be used. And these are definitely not all of the ways to estimate the total demand. In other words, the industry size and how likely or how big the pool of people is that will be benefited from a particular solution. But here are just a few of the ways. Percentage of total industry size. So these numbers can be easily taken from a lot of statistics websites and various other places. The size of the largest competitor, for example, if you were, Solana back in the day, then you could look at the market cap of Ethereum and be like, okay, well, that is a proof that we have a particular size of the market that we could potentially occupy as well. And so that gives people, gives a company or gives us an estimation about what could potentially be possible. Next thing is the sizes of the active communities in the space. Obviously, this is a community, or these will be communities of people who are actively talking about one specific thing. And so if you've got 100,000 people active in a group that's talking about crypto gaming or something like that, that's a huge indication of how many people are really, really interested in it. And then you can kind of cross-reference that with multiple different forums and stuff like that as well. A follow-on from this as well is looking at web traffic to niche-specific websites, for example, in the gaming crypto community or hashtag or something based around that one topic. And so you can use websites like similarweb.com to look at a website's web traffic per month. And let's say a website about gaming crypto, let's stick with that example, has 300,000 visitors every single month. That gives you another insight that you can cross-reference with these previous methods that I've just talked about to kind of get an estimation about what the industry size is, and then you can kind of go from there. Now, the next thing is the unlock schedule and the burning schedule. In other words, how are the tokens being released, which is the unlock schedule, and how are they being removed, the burning schedule, in the future. And so this is important because as the supply increases, the demand will go down. In other words, as the supply increases, the price will go down. Not always, it will just influence price in a downwards direction. For example, a dump of supply, let's say the circulating supply of a token or coin is 1%, and then suddenly the founders or whatever, they dump 50% of the supply at once. That is going to cause an unbelievable crash in price. And so we want to avoid that. And so if I could just draw your attention down here, in terms of the unlock schedule, we want a slow release over time for unlock schedules. Now, in terms of burning schedules, we want to look at first, are there any burning protocols in place to reduce supply? And in some cases, this will be deflationary, in the cases where there isn't a, max amount of supply, not a max amount of supply there, not all the supply is circulating. And so, in other words, we want to, for burning schedules, we want a consistent burning if there is a burning schedule. But keep in mind that we don't necessarily need both of these. And in some cases, we won't need either. This is where it kind of comes down to the individuality of a token and comparing everything. Because, if you've got a project with a fully diluted market cap, meaning there is a fixed supply and all of that supply is in circulation, then we don't really need to worry about an unlock schedule because all of the tokens are unlocked. And then if there is just a fixed supply and there's no burning protocol in place, that's okay because there's no supply coming in. And so it really does depend, but this is kind of a macro look at that. Now, the next thing kind of bridges into what the second video will be about, which is the user/holder incentives and the culture. Without people, there is no economy, and therefore having incentives to both the users of the platform and a community/culture that rewards loyalty, engagement, feedback, and other social measures of longevity is really important. Because if we haven't got a community, we haven't got a culture that is rewarding its investors and rewarding its users, then what's going to happen is people and investors are just going to move to projects that have those things completely set and at their complete peak level, because people mainly just care about themselves. And so they're going to move to whatever provides the best service, just on the most basic level possible. And so think things like staking opportunities and benefits, community rewards, exclusive NFTs, and anything that builds value within the ecosystem. These things are very, very important. Next thing is token distribution. Who is holding these tokens? Now, ideally, we want a small percentage of the total tokens owned by one person or a small group of people, because if we don't have this, I should have written here, this will increase the chance of a rug pull or a pump and a dump, as we saw with Squid Game and so many others. And so essentially, I would say it really does depend. I don't want to give like a specific percentage, but just generally speaking, you want a smaller percentage if possible owned by one person or a group of linked people. And you can see this on CoinMarketCap, which I will show in a future video, and a few other websites as well, which again, I will show in another video. This is just for an oversight. Next thing is private sales. So not everybody gets the same price for a token, not just on the retail level when it's on CoinMarketCap and everyone can get in. There are the pre-sale, the early investors. So before it goes onto an exchange or is listed or whatever, these people will get the best price, generally speaking. And by understanding what price they got in at can really help us to determine the selling pressure. Because if we are in the red and we know that most people will be in the red, but then we know that, so let's say we got in at $3 per token, but we know that the early investors got in at $1 per token and the price is currently trading at $1.50, so most people are at a loss, then we can make a fair assumption that because they are not at a loss yet and they are still in profit, the human need for them to dump and the human tendency for them to kind of dump what they're doing, not that many investors like that would do that, but just the overall selling pressure is likely to be diminished because they are still in profit overall. And so the final thing, this is very kind of longer term view. This isn't really something that's, I would say, particularly relevant in the short term. And so feel free to just completely ignore this. But it's something that I thought I would mention, and I would like to make a future video in more depth about this in the future. But it's protection, and protection specifically from extreme volatility, and more specifically from uncontrollable events such as correlated crashes. In other words, a crash that is a result of a correlated asset, i.e. Bitcoin going to zero, crashing. And that, how would that have an effect on a particular project? Are there any protection measures in place to protect the investors, to protect the users? Now, again, I don't want to talk about this too much here, because ultimately if Bitcoin goes to zero, it's not just one project that's going to be damaged, it's pretty much all of them. And so we need to kind of be looking at this as more of a macro thing. And the previous things I think are much more important in the short, medium, and even, to be honest, the long term. This is just something to bring to your attention. But yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I'd appreciate you leaving a like, and go join the community if you want to see all of our members in there, sharing different pieces of research that they've done. And we can basically put all of our heads together, because, I'm only one person, you are only one person, but together we can grow and create, hopefully, a really powerful ecosystem of people who are genuinely delivering value to one another. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.